Hopefully, if I plan everything out properly, this video will be out on Valentine's Day. Seeing as how I'm a mouth-breathing neckbeard and will probably have no one to spend it with, let's go full-on weeaboo mode and discuss a superficial romantic pairing of two 10-year-old children. 'Cause that's not weird, right? Let's flash back to January 2014. Pokemon X and Y had released a few months prior, and with that, a new season of the Pokemon anime was bound to hit us as well. By this point, many people, including myself, had stopped watching the Pokemon anime during Black and White, aka Best Wishes, and though it had many redeeming qualities, it wasn't well received among fans. Black and White started at a time where I wasn't waking up at 7 AM on a Saturday to watch it anymore, so I kinda just gave up on the anime. However, after watching a few episodes of Pokemon series XY, I began to regain interest. Now, I'm not much of a shipper when it comes to the shows that I watch, but I attribute my reintroduction into the Pokemon anime to Amourshipping, which if you don't know is the belief that Ash and Serena should be in a romantic relationship. I guess it was a right place at the right time kind of thing, as at the time I was an 8th grader going on high school freshman who hadn't really had any romantic involvement or really any experience with girls, so my cringy 14-year-old self kind of projected onto these characters, namely Ash. I think the standout moment for me that truly got me hooked on X and Y was in episode 5 when Serena asks, "Do you remember me?" Which not only showed me that this wasn't going to be like the last season, but that there also might be a relationship forming here. Flash forward to today, and it's been about a year since X, Y, and Z ended in the United States, and since it's Valentine's Day and love is in the air, let's take a look back at Amourshipping and how, as far as Pokemon goes, it really was something special. If you remember 2 years ago, I made a similar video to this one, but I had hardly called that horribly edited grouping of ones and zeros a video. Plus, that video is super dated as it was post-Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, pre-Sun and Moon reveal, so it doesn't exactly hold up. There's definitely going to be some overlap between that video and this one, so just a fair warning. So, Amourshipping. Where to start? Well, the name itself, Amourshipping, is in reference to the French word amour, meaning love. This came about after fans noticed that the Kalos region was based on France, which happens to contain Paris, otherwise known as the City of Love. If you ask me, this is probably the most creative ship name in Pokemon. There's Pokeshipping, Advanced Shipping, Pearl Shipping, and others that are just in reference to the series in which it takes place, and I gotta say, Pokemon fans, you're getting more creative with these ship names, keep it up. I think the biggest thing about this ship is that it's the only one to be officially canon. Many of the people who have worked on the anime, such as artists, composers, and even the voice actors themselves, have hinted at the idea that Ash and Serena belong together, but if that's not evidence enough, they legit kiss in the final episode. And no, it's not like a platonic kiss on the cheek or whatever, no, it's like an on-the-mouth kiss. I mean, they don't show it, but there's behind-the-scenes stuff of them actually showing it, and it's heavily implied seeing as how the other characters react. What's also interesting is that in the final episode of X, Y, and Z, Ash returns to Pallet Town, and there's a shot of what are called baby breath flowers, which are symbolic of everlasting love. The Pokemon Company has been using flowers as symbolism for the past few generations, and considering that the two just kissed, it's likely that this is the writers hinting at, or at least having fun, with the idea of the two having very strong feelings for one another. The difference between this and Ash's other female traveling companions is that, for the most part, Ash was just really good friends with them, without there necessarily being a romantic involvement. The only real outlier here is Misty, but that was exclusive to the English dub. In the Japanese version of the original series, though it was joked about, Misty and Ash did not have feelings for each other. Other characters thought that they did, but in reality they were just really good friends. It's a common misconception considering most people who grew up on the English dub have likely never seen the original version, so they just take whatever 4Kids did as canon. Anyways, back to the basics. I think one of the best things about this ship was the relevance it had in the actual events of the series. What I mean by this is that many main events of the story were a result, whether that be directly or indirectly, of Serena liking Ash. The two feed off of each other as opposed to previous traveling companions. For example, Serena helps Ash develop a strategy for his Shalor City gym battle, which other girls in the series haven't done. The two closest things to this were that one Orange Islands episode where Misty threatens to leave, only to give Ash the confidence boost he needed to win, and the few times where Dawn would act as a cheerleader for Ash's Sinnoh gym battles. In most of Ash's gym battles, he's really only focused on battling and usually takes the time to develop his own strategies without much help from his friends, but Serena is one of the few to involve herself with Ash's strategies in this way. I think the best example of this is in XY121, where Ash is really beating himself up over his loss against Wolfric. Serena finds him in the woods and tries to give him a pep talk by telling him how they have similar experiences with losing. Ash, being in the mindset he was in, ends up being all, "You don't understand," so they have an argument. In fact, it's the only real argument they have in the entire series. Serena goes on about how he's not the Ash she knows, throws some snowballs, and runs off crying. It almost seems as if she's about to confess her feelings to him, but that conveniently doesn't happen. This exchange gave Ash the motivation he needed to master Ash Greninja, and it was all because Serena told him that he was being a big jerk. This is reciprocated by Ash with many of Serena's performances and other big events. For example, in XY80, Serena remembers Ash's motto of "don't give up till it's over," and it gives her the determination, albeit indirectly, to win her first showcase. I think these examples really show how Ash and Serena have one of, if not the, most dynamic relationship in Pokemon. Even when there isn't necessarily a romantic shipping moment, there's still positive influences on each other's lives. A lot of the other girls Ash has traveled with didn't have that same dynamicism. With maybe the exception of Misty, who didn't really do anything at all, let's be honest, all the other girls kinda just did their own thing without much to do with Ash. May and Dawn had their contests where Ash was sometimes an opponent, Iris wanted to be a Dragon Master and Ash did nothing to help her with that, and the Sun and Moon girls feed off of each other and the other characters rather than Ash, who mostly does his own thing. Another thing that makes Amourshipping such a unique pairing is that Ash and Serena knew each other as kids. It's established in the first few episodes that, as young children, probably around 5 or 6 if I had to guess, Serena hurt her leg in the woods and Ash found her and helped her out. It was likely at this moment that Serena's feelings for Ash first developed. It is much easier for children to develop emotional attachments to people and or things because of their stage in brain development, and as we get older, those emotions transition into memories as the things we're attached to leave. Think of your favorite toy you had as a kid. You have all kinds of positive memories associated with it, so when you pick it up in adulthood, you get that nostalgia rush. This is similar with people. Think about it. Everyone remembers their first crush, and if you see that person later in life, you remember those initial feelings. For Serena, this anchor, if you will, was Ash, because she had a positive and weirdly nurturing memory of him as a child. She seems to have forgotten about Ash as the years went on, but perhaps seeing him on TV brought back some repressed memories that she otherwise wouldn't have remembered. This is similar to the toy example from earlier. You sometimes need to see it to remember it. It's that feeling of, oh, I remember that you get when finding something you remember from childhood. This also explains why Serena would choose Ash over any other dude she's ever met, and that's because he's familiar to her. Think about it. Would you rather date someone you already know and have some familiarity with, or a complete stranger you've never met before? I don't know about you, but I'd pick the girl I already know. This is known as the mere exposure effect, aka the familiarity principle, which is a psychological term used to describe this very scenario. We as humans prefer things that we're familiar with over things that we aren't, and I think that applies here with Serena liking Ash. I think the thing I liked the most about Amourshipping wasn't any of the canon stuff, but rather all the fan speculation around it. If you look around a bit, you'll find all sorts of videos and Reddit posts about how Amourshipping would be the perfect way to end the anime, or at least Ash's story. There was a Japanese promo for Pokemon the first movie showing an older Misty, and what we can assume is her and Ash's child, but this was during a time where Pokemon wasn't meant to go past Gen 2, so people applied similar logic to Ash and Serena's relationship. If they were to get together, it would be a fitting way to end his journey, and perhaps the next season could have been Ash and Serena's child traveling the world. I personally liked the theory that there would be some X and Y game sequel that would introduce new areas to explore, so Ash and the rest of the XY gang would travel there, or travel the Hoenn battle frontier between generations, or even travel the Alola region together, but with Ash and Serena as an actual couple. I think that could have led to some interesting character moments and new dynamics. Now, obviously, none of this has happened, and we're a little more than halfway through Sun and Moon, and seeing as how traveling companions don't return anymore like they have in past seasons, it seems unlikely that we'll see Ash and Serena on screen together for a while. I like the direction the current anime is going and hope to see more of it, especially with that Ultra Guardian stuff, but I really wish they'd reference or acknowledge Ash's older friends or even his old Pokemon more often. The 2-part Kanto episode where Misty and Brock come back is a good example of how this can be handled, and I'd like to see them do the same concept, not just with Serena, but with all of Ash's old friends. Heck, I'd kill to see Ash's Charizard come to Alola for an episode and fight Kiawe or something. To bring the video back to the topic at hand, I really like the Amourshipping, not just as a superficial relationship, but as a way of two characters co-developing together, and as a source for speculation that got people talking about the Pokemon anime again at a time where fan reception was reaching a low point. Whether they make something of it in the future or it remains its own thing, I will always fondly remember Amourshipping because of how it reignited my interest for Pokemon in a time where I was pretty indifferent to it, and as a result, made X and Y one of my favorite Pokemon seasons. With that, my friends, I have been Matt at Chunky Monkey Games, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.